Mjöllmile wasn't finished yet. Rather, we were only just getting to the meat of things. So, I want to propose something to Rimuru-sama. I wish to make the reward even bigger, he said, giving off a wicked grin. At that moment, I felt like he was such a reliable person. Tell me about it, Mjöllmile-kun, I responded with a Buddhist smile that showed my open-mindedness. I want to shock the nobles from the neighboring nations a bit, and give a reward of 100 stellars to whoever conquers the final floor. Ho ho. Eh? About that, how much is that when you convert it to Japanese yen? I suppose it would be around 1 billion Japanese yen. Moreover, because of the low cost of living in this world, these coins would seem to be worth even more. Surely, you must be exaggerating, right, Mjöllmile-kun? Fufufu, if we do pitch our prize like that, even the most passive of nobles would reach for their own piece of the pie. They would start hiring adventurers to participate in the Labyrinth conquest. In that case, there would be an even larger flow of money. Money comes with consumers. Once we planted the seed of interest within the population, everyone would be scared to miss out on the trend. Even those who had little care for the matter would start to be attracted. Ah, but that's so much money we are talking. Ramrus muttered worriedly. But Mjöllmile, filled with confidence, was unfazed. Well, I wonder who's the ruler of this labyrinth? He asked provocatively before giving Veldora a peek. Veldora reacted quickly. Kukuku, gahahaha. It is I, the great true dragon. The majestic storm dragon Veldora. He announced his title proudly. Where have I heard about this storm dragon Veldora? Masayuki sitting on the side was looking all mindful of something and seemed to be pondering. Mjöllmile on the other hand was nodding with a villainous expression. Of course I knew that. Which is why, surely, there can't be anyone who would be able to defeat Veldora-sama, isn't that so? That goes without saying, Mjöllmile. You are truly a man of wisdom, gahahaha. Fufufu, it's nothing. I've learned this from observing Rimuru-sama every day. Oi, can you not drag me into this? While Veldora and Mjöllmile were laughing out loud, I was pondering over Mjöllmile's proposal. He suggested a reward of 100 stellars. It was a pretty insane amount of money, but it was at the same time the prize for successfully beating the final floor. In other words, the prize for defeating Veldora. Well, that would be impossible. Though it might sound highly fraudulent, it wasn't a lie. I should say that it's still too early discussing the plausibility of it. From what I've seen so far, I really doubt anyone would truly make it to the 100th floor. He's right. I think our labyrinth is unbeatable. Yup. That is most correct. That's right. Perhaps people can still make it to floor 50, but the difficulty levels beyond that are beyond my imagination. Don't we even have dragons later, as well? How in the world are any adventurers supposed to defeat dragons? Upon saying so, even Mjöllmile gave a rather baffled expression. If someone as bold and greedy as him would not tread any further than that, it truly meant that our labyrinth was too well defended. I doubt we'd ever have to pay out those 100 stellars. That was the plan from the start. This is a bait for the nobles, therefore, I don't think it'll be a problem if we are to set the prize that high. I heard that the Holy Knights are taking up the challenge as well. I'm quite keen on seeing the result of that. Despite putting it that way, Mjöllmile looked convinced that even they would not be able to break through the labyrinth. I agreed with him. I was terribly shocked when I heard the amount, but after I calmed down and thought it over, there was no need for me to worry about it being conquered. Mjöllmile-kun, let's proceed in that direction. Yes sir, I understand. Then I will trouble you to do some promotion and hopefully attract more participants. I'll make sure to phrase it like an invitation to battle issued by the Demon Lord, and put as much spice in it as possible. Can you really advertise like that? Actually, hold on. Since I will continue to be the Demon Lord in the future, perhaps at some point, there will be foolishly daring brutes coming here to challenge me. It would be troublesome having to deal with them one by one. Perhaps it would be better to announce it, so that only those who make it through the 100th floor get to challenge me. That's right. In that way, even the freeloader Veldora will become a more valuable asset. Okay, let's do just that. Could you please add this as well? Announce to the public that whoever makes it through the labyrinth would be granted the right to duel me. Masayuki, this applies to you as well. If people around you start instigating you to duel me, you can easily derail the topic using this excuse. That's great. Seriously, I really don't want to fight Rimuru-san. Now I am saved. I get you. Then, Mjöllmile-kun, I'll be counting on you. Leave it to me. Then excuse me, for I must leave at once. Mjöllmile sure is a workaholic. As soon as the matter was settled, Mjöllmile got off his seat quickly. He then saluted us and left the room. We watched Mjöllmile leave. It would be okay to conclude the meeting now, but Masayuki looked rather unwell. That worried me a bit, so I asked. What's wrong? Is there something that's bothering you? Well, it's related to what we just discussed. People seem to think I am still sitting on the idea, but I will probably need to fight that guy one day. Fighting that guy, is he talking about the promise that he made during the tournament? By that guy, do you mean Gozer? That's right. I put the word out like that, so I can't just run away. But if I were to really fight him, I will surely lose. He had a point. Masayuki's unique skill was incredibly special and possessed great utility. However, such utility was not much practical use in combat. Actually, he could win without fighting, through clever use of his skill. So, I suppose, in a way, it was actually extremely suitable for combat. In any case, I couldn't just do nothing about Masayuki's duel with Gozer. Just like Mjöllmile did, the audience probably had faith in Masayuki to win. And Masayuki had always acted to live up to that faith as well. Cancelling the duel at this point was out of the question. Would you like to get some training with the kids while Hinata is in town? She will probably butcher me. I just want to live a happy and peaceful life. Unfortunately, Masayuki rejected me with a bright smile. Perhaps I should show this guy a hard time for once with that thought in mind. However, wouldn't it be strange for kids living in modern time peaceful Japan to be aggressive and warmongering? Now that I think about it, I am a lot like Masayuki. Well, it will be, in a sense, trouble for me if you were to lose. So, let me think about it. Really? Then I will be counting on you, Rimuru-san. Right, and in turn, you should help me out as well. Of course, I will. Masayuki was willing to cooperate. Nowadays his fame was very helpful for us. If Masayuki were to lose to Gozer, I would suffer great losses as well. It was a troublesome problem that we had to resolve somehow. One way would have been to convince Gozer, but that didn't seem to be very legitimate. Anyway, I'd take my time about the matter. After some more casual chit-chat, the emergency meeting concluded. And we began to revamp the labyrinth starting on the same day. We were observing with high expectations. As I had predicted, we were fortunate to have corrected the problems pointed out by Masayuki. The difficulty of the labyrinth was lowered quite a bit. But then again, I had taken Mjöllmile's advice as well, so it shouldn't be too simple either. Now then, I wonder how everyone is reacting to the changes. First of all, there were still many idiots who wouldn't listen to instructions. Just as before, they ignored the tutorial missions and focused on progressing within the labyrinth instead. But, naturally, there was no way they could conquer the floors that easily. Even so, those were the inflexible people who kept on challenging floors over and over. I wonder what drove them to do so. Could it be that they had employers? Or out of their pride perhaps? The answers were never noble in any way. In fact, they were more practical reasons. The day the labyrinth was made public, Basin's party found a rare grade sword from the treasure chest. To them it was a most incredible weapon. It seemed that the competitors had a drastically different understanding of things compared to us. Rare grade equipment normally referred to an evolved version of a piece of quality equipment crafted with magisteel. After it experienced a long period of time, it eventually began to show special properties. The magisteel produced in our nation used iron ores mined from the mountain region by the high orcs. They were exposed to the magic unleashed by Veldora, which prompted their change in quality. That's why as soon as these ores were moved to the storage section of the labyrinth, their quality began to change naturally. Not only was it easy to source, it was of very fine quality as well. And so, we generously used it as crafting material for equipment. Unlike the gear circulating in the markets of Western nations, this equipment solely relied on magisteel to be crafted. Since they were different right down to the raw material, even the average gear in our nation's garrison would appear to be special grade to outsiders. Needless to say, it outperformed the Challenger's equipment by several orders of magnitude. As for the gear worn by the soldiers of our nation, they were crafted by Kurobe's disciples. There were around a dozen of them working at the workshop. Under Kurobe's guidance, they were crafting equipment day in and day out. That's why we got to produce gear in mass. Even these weapons crafted by Kurobe's disciples were all superior in quality when compared to the average gear being sold on the markets of the Western nations, even approaching the quality of special grade. These days, their creations were all put inside the treasure chests. The failed creations were destroyed, and the ones that were deemed somewhat useful were placed in the treasure chests in the labyrinth. There was good gear and bad gear, but there was, nonetheless, outstanding work among them. One of them, a sword, barely making it to rare grade, was taken by Basin. The rate for getting one of them was 1 in 100. This probability seemed to be the sweet spot regarding the chance of winning the jackpot. By the way, if it were crafted by Kurobe, even his failed work would reach rare grade. At first glance, you may think this was good stuff, but according to Kurobe himself, these failures were just failures. There is a distinct difference, Kurobe declared. So, I did some intense digging, and, eventually, I uncovered some insights. While both pieces of equipment were of the same grading, each piece had a lot of variance in terms of their stats. Kurobe could identify this and tell whether his work was a success or a failure. In fact, I compared the sword forged by Kurobe's disciple and his own creation. Both were rare grade, yet their differences were very obvious. It was thanks to the increase in precision of my analysis that I was able to realize the differences. Had Kurobi not pointed it out for me, I probably would not have known how to tell them apart. To give an easy example, let's say I copy a piece of equipment crafted by Kurobi. Obviously, the end product would be of the same grade. However, just like I've mentioned before, I could not recreate the quality. At first glance, the replica would appear to be the same as the original, but in truth, it was an inferior version of the original. This was the difference. The reason for such a phenomenon to occur was probably because my blacksmithing technique was not as good as Kurobi's. Therefore, I concluded that weapons had many different levels of quality. Well, even for weapon merchants, let alone amateurs, to tell such a difference, I started to understand how to differentiate good weapons from the bad.